Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Gaurav Sharma and with me is Abhineet Shukla bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring to you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar asserts that India's trade policies and reforms make it a strong destination for FDI. India's exports of agricultural and processed food products rise by 16% from April to November of financial year 2022-23. Last rites of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's mother Hiraben performed at Gandhinagar in Gujarat. Condolences pour in from across the world. Myanmar military court extends Aung San Suu Kyi's jail term by 7 more years, making it 33 overall. Brazil's legendary footballer Pelé dies at the age of 82, and India's wicket-keeper batsman Rishabh Pant sustains injuries in a car accident near Roorkee in Uttarakhand. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has asserted that there is a greater appetite in the world for investing in India. Addressing a business community level event at Limassol in Cyprus on Friday, he said that trade policies and reforms taken by the Narendra Modi government have contributed to India becoming a strong destination for foreign direct investment.
During the pandemic, we actually used this period to carry out very ambitious economic reforms. Some of these were in the making since 2014, but certainly the Make in India initiative and what we call Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is a sort of a self-reliance, it's promoting greater capacities within India. These were taken by the government in a much more focused way, and our goal is clearly to make India a major manufacturing hub.
Dr. Jaishankar also spoke about expanding the India-Cyprus bilateral economic relationship. He highlighted 7 areas which Cyprus and India should work forward in. These areas include finance, shipping, tourism and knowledge economy. The minister added that this region will see more of India in the future. India and Cyprus have signed a number of agreements in various areas including defense and military cooperation between the two countries. A letter of intent on migration and mobility partnership was also signed to provide a common framework of arrangement and cooperation to facilitate the mobility of students, academics, business people and professionals. It will also help in combating irregular migration. The agreements were signed following talks between the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and the Foreign Minister of Cyprus on Thursday. Dr. Jaishankar is on an official visit to Cyprus and Austria till the 3rd of next month. In the second leg of his visit to Austria, Dr. Jaishankar will meet the Austrian Federal Minister for European and International Affairs, Alexander Schallenberg. According to the External Affairs Ministry, this will be the first External Affairs Minister-level visit from India to Austria in the last 27 years. The minister will call on the Austrian Chancellor, Karl Nehammer. He will also interact with the Indian diaspora based in Austria. Dr. Jaishankar will also meet the Director General of International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Mariano Grossi.
India's exports of agricultural and processed food products has risen by 16% during April to November of the financial year 2022-23 in comparison to the same period of 2021-22. According to the provisional data by the Directorate General of Commercial Intelligence and Statistics, the overall export of agricultural and processed food products Export Development Authority APETA products was $17.43 billion during April to November. Processed fruits and vegetables recorded a growth of 32.60%, while fresh fruits registered 4% growth compared to corresponding months of the previous year. The initiatives taken by the APETA have helped the country in achieving 74% of its total export target for the year 2022-23 in 8 months of the current fiscal.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has dedicated 4 railway projects in West Bengal to the nation from Ahmedabad through video conferencing. The projects include Boichi Shaktigarh 3rd Line, Dankuni Chandanpur 4th Line project, Nimtita New Farakka Double Line and Ambadi Padakata New Menagudi Gumanihat doubling project. The Prime Minister also laid the foundation stone for the redevelopment of the new Jalpaiguri railway station on Friday. He flagged off the Vande Bharat Express connecting Howrah to New Jalpaiguri and also inaugurated the Joka Taratada stretch of the Joka Esplanade Metro Project Purple Line. Addressing the gathering after the inauguration of the projects, the Prime Minister said that India had taken a resolve to start 475 Vande Bharat trains during the celebrations of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and the train being flagged off on Friday from Howrah to New Jalpaiguri is one of them.
अब आने वाले 8 वर्ष में हम भारतीय रेलवे को आधुनिकता की नई यात्रा पर निकलते हुए देखेंगे। भारत जैसे युवा देश के लिए भारतीय रेल भी युवा अवतार लेने जा रहा है और इसमें निश्चित तौर पर 475 से ज्यादा वंदे भारत ट्रेनों की बड़ी भूमिका होगी।
Mentioning the multiple projects whose foundation stones were laid and inaugurated, the Prime Minister said that the government is spending approximately 5,000 crore rupees for the completion of these projects. Linking reforms and development of railways with the development of the country, Mr. Modi said that nationwide campaign is going on to transform the Indian railways. He listed modern trains like Vande Bharat, Tejas Humsafar and Vistadome coaches, and the modernization of railway stations and doubling and electrification of railway lines as examples of this modernization. He also mentioned eastern and western dedicated freight corridors as projects that will bring revolutionary changes in the logistics sector. The Prime Minister said that the metro rail system is an example of India's speed and scale.
The last rites of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's mother Hiraben were performed at Muktidham Crematorium in Gandhinagar on Friday. She passed away Friday morning at a hospital in Ahmedabad. She was 100 years old. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other family members performed her last rites. In an emotional tweet, the Prime Minister said that a glorious century now rests at the feet of God. Paying tribute to his mother, Mr. Modi said that he felt the presence of a trinity in his mother, which symbolizes the journey of an ascetic, a selfless karma yogi, and a life dedicated to values. Recalling his meeting with his mother on her 100th birthday, the Prime Minister said that she encouraged him to work with intelligence and live life with purity. President Draupadi Murmu and Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar have offered condolences at the demise of the Prime Minister's mother Hiraben. In a message, President Murmu termed Hiraba's 100 years of struggling life as a symbol of Indian ideals. She said, Mr. Modi has imbibed the spirit of Matri Devo Bhava and the values of Hiraba in his life as well. The Vice President also prayed for eternal peace for the departed soul. Political leaders from across the parties have expressed grief at the demise of the Prime Minister's mother. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Union Home Minister Amit Shah, Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Singh Thakur are among those who expressed grief over Hiraben's demise. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge and party leader Rahul Gandhi have also expressed grief over the demise of Prime Minister's mother. Condolences have also started pouring in from across the world. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida was one of the first world leaders who offered condolences to Prime Minister Modi. In a tweet, Mr. Kishida expressed his deepest condolences at the passing away of Hiraben Modi. Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has expressed deep shock and sorrow at the passing away of Prime Minister Modi's mother, Hiraben Modi. Calling Hiraben a proud mother, Ms. Hasina said that her role as a mother, motivator and mentor was instrumental in every aspect of Prime Minister Modi's life. Nepal Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal Prachand also expressed sadness over the death of Mr. Modi's mother. In a tweet, he expressed heartfelt condolences to PM Modi and the family members. Former Sri Lankan Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa also condoled the death of Prime Minister's mother. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif expressed his condolence in a tweet. He said, "There is no greater loss than losing one's mother." Russian Ambassador to India, Denis Alipov, also offered condolences to Prime Minister Modi.
A Myanmar military court has sentenced Aung San Suu Kyi to a further 7 years in prison for corruption, taking her overall jail term to 33 years. The country's former democratically elected leader has been under house arrest since the military ousted her government in a coup in February 2021. Since then, she has faced 18 months of trials on 19 charges. On Friday, she was sentenced on the final 5 charges that she faced. A court found her guilty of corruption because she had not followed regulations in renting a helicopter for a government minister. The 77-year-old Nobel laureate has spent most of her time in detention under house arrest in the capital, Nay-Pyi-Taw. The UN Security Council called for her release last week.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a news commentary. India reiterates her call for peace and diplomacy in the Russia-Ukraine conflict.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi recently had a telephone conversation with Volodymyr Zelensky, the President of Ukraine. The President of Ukraine conveyed his best wishes for India's presidency of the G20. Prime Minister explained the main priorities of India's G20 presidency, including giving a voice to the concerns of developing nations on issues like food and energy security. The two leaders discussed opportunities for strengthening bilateral cooperation. Prime Minister requested Ukraine authorities to facilitate arrangements for the continued education of Indian students who had to return from Ukraine earlier this year. Both leaders also exchanged views about the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Prime Minister Modi strongly reiterated his call for an immediate cessation of hostilities and said that both sides should revert to dialogue and diplomacy to find a lasting solution to the differences. Prime Minister also conveyed India's support for any peace efforts and assured India's commitment to continue providing humanitarian assistance for affected civilian population. The Indian Prime Minister explained the main priorities of India's G20 presidency, including giving a voice to the concerns of developing nations on issues like food and energy security. Earlier, Prime Minister Modi had held a phone conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin on December 16th, during which he reiterated his call for resolving the Ukraine conflict through dialogue and diplomacy. Mr. Modi and President Putin held a bilateral meeting in Uzbekistan's Samarkand on September 16th, during which the Indian Prime Minister had said, "Today's era is not of war," and nudged the Russian leader to end the conflict. Since the Ukraine conflict began in February this year, the Prime Minister has spoken to President Putin as well as President Zelensky a number of times. In a phone conversation with Mr. Zelensky on October 4th, Mr. Modi said there can be no military solution and that India is ready to contribute to any peace efforts. India has been provided humanitarian assistance in form of urgent relief supplies, including food and medicines for the affected population in Ukraine. India will continue to provide more assistance to Ukraine in the future. The military standoff between the West and Russia has increased manifold, and a negotiated outcome between Moscow and Kyiv is still far away. India has played a fine balancing act between our foreign policy goals and economic requirements. The West has applied economic sanctions on Moscow. Washington has applied an oil embargo from Russia in the light of the ongoing Ukraine crisis. However, India's oil trade with Russia is exempt from these sanctions. At the global level, India has abstained from voting against Russia in the United Nations on many occasions. New Delhi has pointed out that legitimate energy transactions should not be politicized and that countries having oil self-sufficiency or those importing oil from Russia cannot advocate restrictive trading. It should be kept in mind that the EU sanctions on Moscow has kept European countries' energy imports from Russia out of the ambit, and almost 75% of Russian oil and gas goes to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD countries, which are in Europe. On the other hand, the biggest importers of Russian oil and gas in Asia are China, 15.4% oil and 5% gas, South Korea and Japan. Japan and Vietnam also import thermal coal from Russia. Any disruptions on this may also impact Tokyo's and Seoul's energy security. This shows how complex and interdependent the global economy is on resilient supply chains. Amid the ongoing Ukraine-Russia crisis, India has expanded and diversified its supply options so as to strengthen our energy security and best balance a sovereign national interest along with economic recovery by exploring all political and economic options. In the midst of the devastating conflict, India is hopeful that both sides will come to an agreement for peaceful resolution of the issue that would be in the best interest of people from both sides and to humanity at large.
The Kremlin has said that US President Joe Biden, France's Emmanuel Macron, and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz will not be receiving New Year's greetings from the Russian leader Vladimir Putin. As the world gears up to ring in the new year this weekend, Mr. Putin sent congratulatory messages to the leaders of Kremlin-friendly countries, including Turkey, Syria, Venezuela, and China. However, he will not wish a Happy New Year to the leaders of the United States, France, and Germany, countries that have piled unprecedented sanctions on Moscow over Mr. Putin's military operation in Ukraine. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told the reporters that they have currently no contact with them.
This is All India Radio giving you the world news.
India's Home and Cooperation Minister Amit Shah has said that in 3 years, 2 lakh primary milk dairies will be opened at the panchayat level across the country to benefit milk producers and make India a leading milk producer and exporter. He was speaking at a public gathering in Mandya after inaugurating a mega dairy in Karnataka. The Home Minister assured that cooperative milk producers of all the technical assistance from the Cooperative Ministry.
आजादी के तुरंत बाद ही भारत के किसानों ने कोऑपरेटिव मंत्रालय, कोऑपरेटिव मिनिस्ट्री कृषि मंत्रालय से अलग हो, इसकी मांग की थी। उस वक्त अगर इस पर किसी ने काम किया होता तो आज भारत के किसानों की स्थिति अलग होती। परंतु मैं बधाई देना चाहता हूं देश के प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी को कि जिन्होंने अलग कोऑपरेटिव मिनिस्ट्री बनाकर भारत के किसानों के विकास का रास्ता प्रशस्त किया है।
Karnataka Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai, Union Minister Prahlad Joshi, former Prime Minister Deve Gowda and other dignitaries were present on the occasion.
US President Joe Biden on Thursday said that he would work with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, calling the returning right-wing leader his friend. But he also vowed to oppose policies that endanger a two-state solution with the Palestinians. In a statement, Biden said, the United States will continue to support the two-state solution and to oppose policies that endanger its viability or contradict countries' mutual interests and values. As Netanyahu formed a coalition, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said, the Biden administration would judge the cabinet by the policies they pursue, not the personalities that happen to form a government.
In Turkey, at least 7 people were killed in an explosion at a restaurant in Nazilli district of the western Aydin province on Friday. The governor of Aydin province said that 5 others were injured, with one of them in critical condition. Governor Hussein Aksoy said that initial findings showed that the explosion took place while the staff was replacing an empty gas cylinder used in the kitchen. Nazilli Public Prosecutor's Office said that there were detention warrants out for 5 people. Earlier, Justice Minister Bekir Bozdag tweeted that one person who is alleged to have caused the explosion was detained and 3 prosecutors were investigating.
The Indian Coast Guard has concluded maiden contract for 10 multi-copter drones to boost marine surveillance and interdiction capabilities. This is in consonance with government's policy of embracing drone technology. Defense Ministry said these drones are capable of being launched from ships whilst underway as well as shore stations. These drones are going to assist in search and rescue both by day as well as night. The Coast Guard plans to induct 100 additional drones by 2025. This will meet the growing challenges in India's maritime zones and search and rescue region.
The Enforcement Directorate (ED) has carried out search operation in over 1,548 bank accounts involved in the cyber crimes and frozen funds over 42 crore rupees in the case related to the mobile gaming application eNuggets. The agency has seized an amount of over 110 crore rupees so far under the provisions of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. ED has registered the case on the basis of an FIR at the Park Street Police Station in Kolkata against Amir Khan and others based on the complaint filed by the Federal Bank authorities. During the investigation, it was found out that the accused had launched a mobile gaming application, eNuggets, which was designed for the purpose of defrauding public. It was revealed that multiple accounts were used to launder the money.
Government of India has increased interest rate on various small savings schemes for the fourth quarter of the current financial year, starting from the 1st of January 2023. The interest rate of 5-year National Savings Certificate has been increased to 7% from 6.8%. Finance Ministry said the interest rate on Senior Citizen Savings Scheme increased to 8% from 7.6%. The monthly income account saving has also been increased to 7.1% from 6.7%. The interest rate on Kisan Vikas Patra will now be 7.2% and will mature in 120 months. The interest rate of small savings deposit of 1 year time period has been increased to 6.6% from 5.5%. However, the interest rate on Public Provident Fund, Sukanya Samriddhi account and saving deposit have been kept unchanged.
Amidst the crippling economic crisis, Sri Lankans would face further depletion in disposable incomes as steep income tax rates come into force from the 1st of January. With inflation still at 65%, the tax hike is seen to hit the common man who has been coping with the worst ever economic crisis since the island nation's independence in 1948. The highest slab in the progressive tax formula imposes income tax at 36%, while the annual personal relief has been brought down from 3 million to 1.2 million rupees. The new tax system considers all the allowances, including fuel, phone and even food, as an income for the purposes of computation of tax. Those who've already taken loans when the interest rates were low have been worried as the disposable income will see a further cut. The private and formal sector employees believe that other categories of potential taxpayers may not be paying similar rates of tax. In 2019, the Gotabaya Rajapaksa-led government had announced sweeping tax cuts and abolished several taxes. The island nation saw a reduction of over 1 million taxpayers over 2 years, with tax revenues shrinking by almost 30%. The budget deficits over years forced Sri Lanka to borrow heavily for several of its projects, which were criticized for being non-viable.
New York's first legal recreational marijuana dispensary opened on Thursday in the heart of Manhattan. More than 100 people crowded into the dispensary in New York City's East Village, run by the non-profit Housing Works, a group dedicated to fighting homelessness and AIDS. Governor Kathy Hochul, who oversees the fourth most populous U.S. state, said that the first legal adult-use cannabis sales mark a historic milestone in New York's cannabis industry. Hochul said in a statement that she expects New York to serve as a national model for the safe, equitable and inclusive industry we are now building. Housing Works was among the first of 36 groups of individuals granted a retail marijuana license on November the 21st. The stated goal of New York is to grant the first 150 licenses to traders convicted in the past for possession or sale of cannabis. Tax revenues from the marijuana dispensaries will be invested in communities across the state to support public schools, addiction services, mental health services, housing and other community-based programs. For more than a year, it has been legal for adults over 21 to consume cannabis in the state of New York, and in its flagship city, the smell of weed fills the streets of Manhattan and Brooklyn. City Hall expects $1.3 billion in sales by 2023 and 19,000 to 24,000 new jobs in 3 years.
Indian wicketkeeper batsman Rishabh Pant sustained injuries after his car collided with the divider and caught fire when he was travelling from Delhi to Uttarakhand early on Friday morning. According to police, he was alone in the car when his Mercedes car hit the divider railings on the Delhi-Haridwar highway near Roorkee at around 5:30 a.m. The car turned over several times before turning into a ball of fire. Reports say Pant sustained injuries to his head, knee and shin. He was taken to a local hospital before being referred to another hospital in Dehradun.
In Jammu and Kashmir, a large number of tourists are thronging Bardwa Valley to welcome New Year 2023 after 2 years of COVID-19 lull. District Administration Doda took several measures, including aggressive social media campaigns and promotion activities to revive winter tourism. Nodal Officer of New Year Festival, Amir Rafiqi, said, all the hotels and guest houses are running packed, first time in 3 years. The tourism sector is expected not only to revive, but may flourish in a big way in the coming year, he added.
Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Singh Thakur expressed happiness that the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav is being marked by Serbia through a specially designed postal stamp. In a tweet, Mr. Thakur called it a reflection of the global recognition and expanding Indian soft power.
A report from the business desk.
Sensex fell by 293 points to settle at 60,841. Nifty also slipped by 86 points to finish at 18,105. Among global stock markets, Asian stocks were steady on the last trading day of the year. China Shanghai Composite Index gained 0.5%, Hong Kong's Hang Seng surged 0.2% and Singapore Straits Times Index added 0.1%. Japan's Nikkei 225 ended flat while South Korea's Kospi remained closed due to a holiday. European shares were down in intraday trade. Oil prices rose and was on track for a second straight annual gain in a volatile year, marked by tight supplies because of the Ukraine war and weakening demand from the world's top crude importer, China. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading at $83.60 per barrel. Back home at the multi-commodity exchange, gold futures for February was trading at 54,990 rupees per 10 grams. Silver futures for March was trading at 69,470 rupees per kilogram when reports last came in. At the foreign exchange markets, the rupee appreciated by 7 paise to close at 82 rupees and 74 paise against the US dollar. Arjun Chaudhary for World News, All India Radio.
Brazilian football legend Pelé, who won a record 3 World Cups, has passed away at the age of 82. His agent Joe Fraga confirmed his death. Widely regarded as one of soccer's greatest players, Pelé is credited with scoring a world record 1,281 goals in 1,363 appearances during a 21-year career, including 77 goals in 92 matches for his country. The only player to win the World Cup 3 times, lifting the trophy in 1958, 1962 and 1970. Pelé was named FIFA's Player of the Century in 2000. Pelé had been battling cancer for a while and recently his health condition worsened during hospital stay to regulate his cancer medication, doctors had announced earlier this week. And now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Global Times writes, UN calls for women's equal participation in Afghanistan.
Wall Street Journal writes, Beijing calls for science-based response to COVID outbreak.
AFP reports that health experts warned that an explosion of COVID-19 cases in China could create a potential breeding ground for new variants to emerge.
South China Morning Post reports that South Korea said on Friday it will impose mandatory COVID-19 tests on travelers from China, joining the United States, Japan and other countries in taking new border measures after Beijing's decision to lift stringent zero-COVID policies.
The Guardian writes, Blair government had misgivings about Mandela mediation role over Lockerbie.
The Financial Times writes, Joe Biden's green subsidies may backfire, warns EU Commissioner.
The Straits Times writes, somber affair at primary schools that lost 6 teachers, 3 students, 2 canteen staff to Malaysia landslide.
Khabar Hub writes, PM Dahal and UML chair discusses CMP, cabinet expansion.
And before we end the bulletin, a quick look at the headlines once again. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar asserts that India's trade policies and reforms make it a strong destination for FDI. India's exports of agricultural and processed food products rise by 16% from April to November of financial year 2022-23. Last rites of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's mother Hiraben performed at Gandhinagar in Gujarat. Condolences pour in from across the world. Myanmar military court extends Aung San Suu Kyi's jail term by 7 more years, making it 33 overall. Brazil's legendary footballer Pelé dies at the age of 82, and India's wicketkeeper batsman Rishabh Pant sustains injuries in a car accident near Roorkee in Uttarakhand.
And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan Vaishno Jan by artists from Mongolia.
And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.